Now, before she starts, just want to go a little bit about Shindig itself. Um, if you look at your screen, you'll see that that you have an icon, a video icon of yourself, and you see underneath it is something called raise hand and ask question. If you raise, it will indicate to me that you may be having some problems, or if we do some type of a poll, it allows us to count the number of people who say yes. And I can do an IM directly with you. If you ask a question, if you click on ask a question, I see that question, and then I can text Sherry, who's the speaker, about the question, or I can answer your question directly through IM. So those are two aspects. If you move your cursor over your image, you see that there's a menu. Your microphone, you can go into privacy. The key thing, as far as I'm concerned, is something that says IM, which allows you to text either everybody who's participating or a particular person. So if you click on that and type in some text, everybody will see it. Or if you text a particular one person, then that person will see it. And then another feature that you should really understand about Shindig is you see on your screen now that there's two stages, and you probably have some issues seeing the text on the one on the right. If you notice, on the lower right hand corner is a symbol, and if you click on that symbol, that stage will fill your entire screen. And so when there's text on the screen, this text here happens to be difficult to read even if you expand it, but text on the screen, you can see it by clicking on that expand icon. Once something is expanded, then in the top left-hand corner up here, top right-hand corner up here, there's something that closes the screen and brings it back to normal size. So there's one more feature, and if you are trying this out right now, there's one more feature of Shindig that really lends itself to interactive online events, and that is the ability to do a live video conference from within the event itself. So if you click on another person's avatar, you can have a video conversation with that person, or up to actually 5 people at a time. So what I'd like you all to do now is to try that. I'd like you to click on another person's avatar and find out from that person where they're from and why they got into education. So 3 minutes, somebody's avatar, talk to them, ask these 2 questions and anything else that comes to mind, and then I'll come back up on stage and introduce Sherry in about 2 to 3 minutes. Well, so I guess you all had a chance to click on other people's icons, and it's kind of neat to be able to kind of take a break from the main speaker, talk over whatever the issues are, and then to be able to share information. So now what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce Siri Crawford. She's a national presentation technology. Some of you saw her last week as well when she introduced the concept of personalized learning. She's a contributing author. Even though I spelled the word Milken wrong, she still was the 2007 John Milken Award winner for the best, nationally certified, and she's an ed tech specialist with TIE in South Dakota. So I'm going to remove myself from the stage, stop this presentation, pull up Sherry, and pull up Sherry's slides. So give me a second to pull Sherry up.
A. It is brutal, and that cough never want to go away. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit deeper about personalized learning, but I know we have people here tonight who weren't with us last week. So if those of you that will bear with me for just a couple minutes. I kind of want to talk a little bit about what we talked about last week, and then we'll move on. I was in the classroom for 13 years, and as Mitch said, I was a Milken recipient. I also am nationally board certified, so I'm very passionate about school. We had a Sunday group that came in every Sunday, a group of teachers that were all working on some plans for the week. So we would frequently do things like order pizza or whatever because we were working all the time. So the thing that I discovered is that they kept piling more and more on our plates, but they never took anything off. We were constantly being pushed to do a better job, and it felt like no matter how hard we worked, we weren't making any progress. And so I just felt like that the whole system just wasn't working out quite right. Mitch, could you go ahead and advance the slides? And I will tell you, there's probably nothing in this book that you haven't heard somewhere before. But what it did for me is the authors, Chuck Schwana and B. McGarvey, managed to put together a vision in a way of what education could and maybe should look like that really spoke to me. They really made it come to life. They talked about, I'm sorry, they talked about things like Starbucks. They'll do coffee 87,000 different ways right when you go in. And it's not about the coffee even, because you can go anywhere and get a cup of coffee. Not that I think that there's anything wrong with Starbucks coffee, but it's about the experience. You can go, I just got done traveling, and I loved traveling at the Holiday Inn because they have a couple different kinds of pillows on the bed. So I get my own experience there. More and more of our world is becoming that way. Amazon's a prime example. I go out on Amazon and they recognize me. They make recommendations for me on things that I've already read in the past or things I've looked at. And our world is a lot different. But along the way, nothing in education has changed. And I know it would have been very difficult 20 or 30 years ago, but now we have all this technology in front of us, and we can do things in such a different way. I think we need to be looking at the possibilities. So at TIE, because we really believe in the vision that Inevitable put forward, and we worked with the authors pretty closely. Go ahead, Mitch, go to the next slide. We helped write this book called It's Inevitable. Now, It's Inevitable is a field book. It kind of gives you a chance as a school to look and see, is your school ready to move forward with this? It has some rubrics in it that kind of help you judge where you're at, where your community is at, and if you are even in a spot where you can start talking about this, or if there's some other steps you need to do prior to that. Go on to the next one, Mitch, please. In the first book, Inevitable, we talk about some weight-bearing walls, and there are some things that stop schools from moving forward. We have this infrastructure that's built, and these are some of the things that are on it. We talk about grade levels, first grade or second grade or third grade, and we have certain standards and curricula them to achieve at those grade levels. But is that really what's best for education? If your one-year-old child isn't walking at 1, we don't tell them they failed walking. We know they're going to learn it somewhere along the way. If they're not talking, if they're not writing at a certain age, we know they're going to do it. But in schools, we expect them to do it at a set time and a set space and in a specific way. I don't think that's what's best for education. I had an experience a couple ago where my best friend's daughter, who calls me Aunt Sherry, they were in a swimming class, and my friend asked me if I would come and watch swimming lessons. So I went to swimming, and all the kids were broken into like 20 different groups, and they were all in skill level groups. Every child had a bracelet on, and as they passed the skill, they got a punch in their bracelet and they moved on to the next group. Now, they didn't have to wait until everyone in the group passed the skill. They passed the skill and they got to move on. That particular night, Zadie was all showing me what she could do, and she was playing around and she was having a great time. And after class, her mom asked her, she said, Zadie, you didn't pass your skill to go on to the next level. And Zadie just laughed. She said, it's okay, I'll pass next week. I wanted to play and show Aunt Sherry what I was doing. So she was enjoying learning how to swim. It was fun for her. She wasn't worried what was going to happen next time she went. She knew she'd get the skills. I don't understand why we're not doing more of an education. We talk about courses and curriculum. We have courses set up now that are generally a semester or a year long. Why do we do that? I mean, if a kid fails history, did they fail every part of history? Or maybe did they just fail Civil War really bad? What do? We turn around, we make them retake the class because they failed it. So now they're in a class that they're upset about having to retake because they know parts of it. So they're mad, they're not wanting to learn, and really all they needed was a Civil War. Why couldn't we reimagine classes in a different way? In middle school and high school, we've broken it up now to where we teach everything, every subject in isolation. I don't think that's best either. When they go out, when they go out in the world isn't broken up in subject matter. And I know I get myself in a lot of trouble when I talk about this because there's going to be that English teacher like, oh, buddy, don't mess with my curriculum. I love English. I only want to teach English. And I get that, but that's not necessarily what's best for our kids. We look down the list. We talk about bell schedules. I mean, I hate bell schedules. I just don't think that a bell should tell you when you start and stop learning. Students are assigned to classrooms. You know, they have to be with specific teachers for a specific time frame. I'm not sure about that. Textbooks. The way we have textbooks now, a lot of our textbooks are obsolete by the time we get them. Textbooks are great for some kids, but not all kids learn that way. We talk about the ABC grading system, and I will tell you that's what that in for a long time I didn't think you could mess with the ABC grading system. It's just how we've always done things. But as I've learned more about it, I mean, if I have to go have surgery, and I've had that a couple of times, I certainly don't want to have a surgeon that got a C in anatomy. I want to know that they are competency-based and they know everything they need to know to surgery on me. So the ABC grading system, really, what does it mean? And does that mean that we got 70% of what we should know? Shouldn't we have 100% of what we really need to know? Close to that one as well. We talk about learning happens in school. Seat time drives me crazy. Just because your rear end is in the chair, what does that have to do with you learning? Why do we have to do it by that way? There are all kinds of things on here, and I'm not going to go through the rest of the list because you guys can read it. But there are all kinds of things that we do based on what's convenient for bus schedules, based on what works best with the budget. But I don't know that in this scheme of things, we really put students first. And we're all about talking about student achievement, but where in here do we really consider kids learn best and when they learn best and you know, which ways? I think we could reimagine this in so many ways. I think there are some things that can be taught online. I think there are some things that can be taught in a blended learning environment. I think there are some things that can be taught in shorter periods. I think we could put subjects together. I think you could have a writing seminar on how to write a science report. I don't think that's unusual to do things like that. Why don't we have a personal communication class or resume writing seminar? Or, I mean, the possibilities to me are endless, but we get to doing the same all the time. So that's kind of when we start talking about personalized learning. I'm a big believer, and I'm going to get to some questions that some of you guys have had. I'm a big believer that every one of our students need to be on their own individualized learning plan. I think that it's possible. I don't think it would have been a while back, but things have changed. It used to be that we went to school and we listened to our teachers because they were the vessels of all information. Now kids have information at their fingertips. Do they have going to tie what they're learning into their, I think there are things like that we need to be doing. I think that when we talk differentiation, we used to talk about that in a way that a teacher, and I was that teacher, I frequently would make 2, 3, 4 lesson plans for a single class because I was trying to differentiate for students. We have technology that will help us do that now, and I don't think we're fully taking advantage of it. So I'm going to go through some of the questions that some of you guys placed out there. So go ahead, Mitch, go to the next one. And then I'm going to give you one that I saw in there was how to find the time to do it, how's it different from differentiation, and is there a template? So it's really 3 questions. As far as time to do it, it kind of depends on if your whole school is embracing this or if you are doing it individually. I actually work with 2 different schools that are trying some of this. One of them started with a teacher who really started changing how he did things. So it was less about a school approach and more about a teacher's approach, and it got such positive feedback now the school's kind of jumping on board with him. It takes time. He started by flipping the classroom. Flipping the classroom is not an easy way to do it, but it's effective. What he did was he started making videos. That takes some time. But then it opened up his classroom time so that he had more time to work with his students on the problems they were having. The other school that we're working with, their whole, last year, for the first time, their whole 9th grade read this book, Inevitable. They got excited. Their principal kind of got out of their way a little bit, which I found interesting, and said, sure, go ahead and explore this. And he thought they were going to do a little bit of it, and these teachers were on fire. Decided they were going to embrace this concept totally. It ended up, they had some bumps and bruises along the way, but I thought it was really interesting. I went and interviewed some of these teachers, and I said, so is this harder than teaching in a traditional way, and does it take more time? I sort of knew the answer, but I went to see what they said. And the first teacher said, oh, it takes a ton more time. And I said, then why would you do that? I mean, you're already busy enough. And he said, I do that because my kids are enjoying learning again, and it's something I've not experienced in 15 years of teaching high school. He's excited. They're starting to take ownership for their own learning. They're really getting involved here, and I will never go back. He said, I love it. It's a lot of work. He said, but when you see that you're making a difference, you don't mind the extra work so much. How's it different from differentiation? It's really not, except you're differentiating for every student. You're trying to meet every student where they're at and find those triggers that help them want to learn and help them become more engaged in their own learning. And is there a template? Well, that's an interesting thing because here at where I work today, we had a conversation about this, and we're actually putting together some classes to get teachers started. We've already been working from the administration down, but we really want to help the teachers from the bottom up. But as far as a template, there's really not. I could talk to you about flipped classroom. I could talk to you about project-based learning. I could talk to you about online learning or blended learning or a whole multitude of things that you could start doing. But if you're going to do a true customized learning experience, it's going to look different in every school. You need to find the approach that works for your students. So template-wise, we can give you some ideas and some suggestions on where to get started, but if it's really going to be customized, it really is going to look a little different everywhere you go. Okay, go to the next one, Mitch. Personalized learning in elementary and special ed classes. Well, what we've talked about as far as personalized in elementary, I actually think it's easiest to start there because, first of all, you generally have one teacher who teaches everything. So to be able to get them to be in their classes. But if you're lucky enough to be in a school where there are a couple teachers that teach first grade or second grade, you can do things like split your kids up in a different way. You can put them in, set your schedule to where you're doing reading all at one time, and you move the kids by their ability level that day. That doesn't mean they're always in that same track. So if a kid suddenly gets it and starts reading better, you move them up a track. I mean, you just do. They go up to the next reading level. they don't all have to try to be at the same level. And we don't consider it failure at the low end. They're just not ready yet. They need the time to develop the skills at their level. And if they're high end, why would we slow them down? I think you can group and regroup your kids in a way that meets their needs where they're at. I think the same is true for special education classrooms. And I think because in most special education classrooms, you are working with smaller groups of kids, it's easy to find the things that interest them and tie learning to things that they're interested in and make them want to learn again. That's one thing we talked about last week, is that our kids come to us in kindergarten and first grade, and those are just so shiny and eager to learn, and they can't wait to see the teachers every day. And then I taught 8th grade, and I can promise you most of my kids did not look forward to coming to school. And it wasn't anything personal against me. They thought I was an okay teacher. They came because that's where their friends were at, but they were not eager to learn anything. And we did that to them. We, as an educational system, I believe, takes the fun out of learning, and I think it's harmful. So that's why I'm so passionate that we need to do this differently. All right, Mitch, go to the next one. There we go. Okay, this one was a two-parter. Convincing others to become effective at customizing their learning. That's tricky. Okay, here's the part that we really have to work on. And I don't think that tomorrow everybody can jump into a customized learning experience. It takes some real cultural shifts here. We have to get kids to be responsible for their own learning. And I know my 8th graders are not responsible at all for their own learning. When I would tell them it was, the first assignment paper, and the first question out of their mouth is, how long does it have to be? And one day I told them, it needs to be as long as it needs to be to accomplish what you have to accomplish. You have the rubric, you know what I expect, it needs to be that long. And they flipped out on me. They want to be spoon-fed because that's what's been happening. We have gone ahead and given them the answers. We've spoon-fed them along the way. And I don't think we do that on purpose. I don't think we do that to be harmful. But the reality is we've got so much curriculum that has to be covered, so many standards that have to be hit, and we've got to prep them for the test. And we have all of this stuff on our plate. We have time to let them find out what they want to do and make all their own choices. I couldn't walk into my writing class and say, okay, today write about whatever you want to write about. I don't care how you write. No, I had to teach them that some days it was creative writing and some days it was report writing, and you have to get them through the genres and whatever, which makes it really tough. So to get them to become effective at their own learning, it is a culture shift. And we have to start with the adults around them first. It can be a nightmare because they always know how school is supposed to look. And when you want to change things up, it's scary for them. They want their kids to be successful, and they don't know how to help them be successful in this new environment. You have to get them all convinced that this is what's best for kids, what's best for education. You have to get all the teachers on board, or at least as on board as you can, before you're going to get there. The second part of the question was hearing about specific tools and events for customized learning that others have found most useful. A lot of our schools that we're working with have either started with Coach, where they're some of them are making videos for their class, some of them are finding outside videos, or a combination of those. I really believe you need to make some of the videos yourself, but it's not about the video. You assign that for homework or a piece of the class, but what it's about is if you put the instruction you need to give your kids on video, and you assign that for homework or whatever, that frees up a huge chunk of classroom time. And that classroom time can be used either doing projects or deeper thinking learning. I know when I was in school, I was horrible at math. And to this math phobic, and I swear it's because I had bad teachers. But I would go into class, and I never understood what my teacher was even saying. And I was a good student. I want you to understand that. But it was so foreign to me. And my dad would try to help me, and he was good at math, but he didn't understand new math. And so I frequently got things wrong because my dad helped me in the wrong way. So if I had a flipped classroom approach and I could have listened to my teacher at night, first of all, my dad could have listened too, so he could have learned me. But secondly, I could have rewound the teacher enough times to at least formulate some good questions. But the best part of it is that when I was really struggling in the math, at times I really needed help, I would be in the classroom, those things. And I would have the teacher right there to help me and work through the problems. So flipped classroom is one way you can go about it. We have another set of teachers that are doing some blended learning. They've put a lot of their curriculum online. So the kids work through their modules online, but they've also set up a lot of lab time where when kids get stuck or they need some inspiration or whatever, they have some time that they can come in and work either one-on-one or in small groups with the teacher, and they can extend their learning that way. So there's a lot of things that you can do to get started, even within the weight-bearing walls that we have now, but it's not easy. And I'm not going to ever come here and tell you that what I'm proposing is going to be an easy thing for any of us to do, but I think that most of us in education, we're not necessarily looking for the easy way out. We're looking for the way that really will help our kids learn and help them become lifelong learners and enthusiastic about it. So I hope that answers the questions that were put forth for now. Go ahead to the next slide. I want to give you guys some time to group up and talk a little bit. And I want you to think about what ways that you see possible to move forward within the walls you currently have, because we know we can't break all the walls down yet. And what do you think are some huge barriers helping you do that? So go ahead and group up, and I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to talk, and then we'll come back whole group. And I'm going to kind of circulate amongst you, and I would like some of you guys to be willing to share out big group, please. Go. Well, that was great conversation. I got to join in a couple. I didn't get to talk to all of you. I didn't really ask for permission, but I'd really like to bring Natalie up on the stage. Would you be willing to come and talk, Natalie? I love putting people on the spot. Natalie, when we were talking, you were talking about some of the things in your school and the resistance that you're feeling. Can you tell the whole group of some of that?
I feel like that there's a group in my school corporation willing to do the extra work because just like you said, Sherry, we have all this testing and all the paperwork that's required by the state. And if we're not teaching a standard and there's so many to-dos on our list, that doing any extra filming or blended learning, we're just at a disadvantage. And then if anybody's excited about it, we can't get well, it's not that you have to get everybody involved, but you're trying to get people to connect and realize the importance of being a connected educator online, because if I didn't have this connection, I would still feel abandoned in my own school corporation because not everybody's on board. And I need that help and support, and that's why I think joining groups like tonight and connecting with other people has made a big difference in how I'm pushing forward, because I'm trying. I'm not giving up, and it's only because of all of the people I connect with online.
And you have got to reach out to groups like this so that you get the support you're not going to get in your school. So I'm glad, Natalie, that you are joining. You do feel supported, and you know you're not alone out here. It's tough work to be innovative. Monty, would you come up and talk to us about what you all were talking about?
Good evening. One thing that we were talking about in the group that I was in, both of us are college professors, and we were emphasizing the importance that we need to model to pre-service teachers and graduate students how they need to go about to customize our learning as they are interacting with us, they're not going to learn what it means to customize learning. And so it's very important to always be thinking about, especially at the undergrad and the grad level, how can we model and demonstrate what needs to be going on in the pre-K through 12 level.
And I'm so glad to hear that, because around here, our colleges are, and I hate to say this because I'm not trashing our colleges, but they're the best. They still use lecture method on almost everything. I mean, they're as far behind in teaching methods as I can imagine. So to hear that you guys are trying to get the pre-K, the pre-service teachers really moving in this direction before they ever hit the classroom is so important to this whole thing. Because before we can move forward, we're going to have to get the new ones on board too. Thank you.
So true.
Was there
You're
anybody
welcome.
else that wanted to share what was in their group? Feel free to raise your hand and Mitch will bring you up on stage. Mitch, you're watching the hands, so if we don't have hands, you can bring me. Is Mitch still here? There he is. Yay. Okay, so go on to, oops. Oh, here comes Judy.
Hi, I just want to try out the platform. Bye.
Okay. Judy's actually joined us because she does want to see what the Shindig platform does. So I'm glad you got to see what it's like to come up on the stage as well. Okay, Mitch. Keep going. One more. Okay, this was one of the next questions that I had put forth. Persuading school administrators that change is needed in an educational culture where everyone fears being the first to do anything. I don't want to say that's impossible, but it's going to be difficult. First of all, I would hand them the book Inevitable and have them at least read the book. You have to get them started thinking how the change can start taking place. While you may or may not get them on board with you, you can start doing things in your own classroom to initiate some amount of change. The biggest thing you do, whether you do a flipped classroom or you do a blended learning or you do an online class, whatever it is that you do, you want to put students responsible for their own learning. That's the biggest part of moving to a customized approach, is getting students to be responsible and take part in their own learning. They can't just sit there and be passive in their chairs. They have to be actively involved. And I think that if teachers start, even if you're in a school where they're really hesitant to change, once they start seeing positive things happen in your classroom, they can't deny that. No matter what they think, when they see things moving forward, you're going to make some changes. So it's a slow process. I promise you, not every school, even the ones that believe in this, are going to go forward and it's going to be great. The school that I talked about where the principal got out of the 9th grade teacher's way and let them do what they wanted, I said they had some bumps and bruises along the way. One of the things that I don't think they did a good job of when they started was explaining to parents really how this was different. And some of the parents really pushed back and they didn't really like the new system. So this year, which is the second year in, they gave students an option to either go with a customized route or they could take a traditional route through 10th grade. And there were, I don't remember, maybe half a dozen that decided they wanted to go the traditional route. And it was really interesting. I think a lot of them, their parents were the ones that really pushed for them to take that route. And at Christmas, I think almost all of them have begged to go back to the other way because they got a taste of it last year and they really liked it. And they're bored in a traditional classroom. And to me, that says so much. So they're doing a better job this year of educating the parents and, convincing them how this is good for their kids. So I think you have to, it takes some bumps and bruises. It takes some time to get through it. It takes a cultural shift. Like I said, I would love every school to be an MCL school, a mass customized learning school tomorrow. I live in a world of not to be the case, but if we don't keep talking about this and keep pushing this forward, it's just going to take that much longer for us to get there. So I had somebody actually argue with me about this. It turned out he really agreed with me on everything, but he was pushing on my buttons, and everything I would say about this, he would give me pushback and tell me all the reasons it wouldn't work and whatever. And he's finally said, he goes, so you're talking a cultural shift. Do you know how hard that's going to be? I said, I'm completely aware of how hard that's going to be, but with my dying, I will be up here talking about it, because if I don't, we're never going. So you all just keep fighting the fight. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Okay, perhaps a roadmap for getting started. What are some initial steps teachers take to get going on a path towards personalized learning? And I think I've probably covered quite a bit of that tonight. Like I said, we've been working on kind of that roadmap here where I work for a couple weeks now. We're putting together some classes which actually are going to go national, I think, before next fall. We're putting together classes on flipped learning and project-based learning and some online digital content. But the other classes that we're mixing in there, which I think are really key, is we're doing classes on student engagement and student motivation, because getting kids to be motivated to be self-paced learners it's a whole skill into itself. We're doing ones on assessment and what that can look like in this kind of an environment. So we're putting together our own roadmap, but I think that teachers can start now by, if you want to look at flipped classroom, if you want to look at project-based learning, if you want to look at a blended learning environment, take advantage of whatever technology you have in your classroom, because the technology is phenomenal. The things we can do, we can go out and get online curriculum. If you haven't checked out CK12 or Guru Learning or Activate Instruction or Khan Academy or Learn Zillion, I mean, there is so much rich curriculum that you don't even have to do the lessons yourself. You can just go grab this stuff and put it in your classroom and engage your students in an entirely different way than what we've been doing just with a textbook and us standing in front of the class. So there are a lot of those things that you can start doing to move those kids forwards and get them really involved in their own learning. Okay, Mitch, one more question here, and then I'm going to turn them loose to talk again. Especially interested in learning the pre-planning training that teachers need for personalizing student learning. I should have paid more attention. That's similar to the last one. The pre-planning, I will tell you, there's a lot of work that goes into it. This group of teachers that I talk about that did the 9th grade, they spent a week together just reimagining what it could look like. And then each of the teachers said, and they did that early in the summer, and each of the teachers said they spent much of the rest of the summer, I mean a lot of time, really redoing their class. They could put some of their things online, they set up modules, they just really redid their entire curriculum. So they spent a lot of time doing that, and I know it's a lot of work, but there has been no time tonight that I've told you this is easy. And I am never, ever, ever going to say that. I am never going to say, not only is this a silver bullet, because I've been in education a long time, and every year there's a new silver bullet, and it drives me crazy. I think this could be, because it's so much different than just the little programs that we've brought in before. I think it could be great. I hope it will be, but I certainly won't tell you that it'll be easy. All right, let's go to one more group talk. So Mitch, if you'll switch slides. I know we're getting down on time, but I just want to give you guys a couple minutes. If you now have an interest in this, what do you think your next steps are? And if you don't, what is it you see as the negative to doing customized learning? And I do want you to know it's okay. If you think this is not where we're going, you are totally entitled to your opinion. I'm passionate about this, but I don't always believe I'm right. I think I am this time, but that's just me. But if you're okay with this, that's an okay opinion to have, and feel free to share it. I just want everybody to respect each other's opinions. So what are your next steps, or what do you see as negative to this? So group up. I'm only going to give you like 3 minutes because I know we have to wrap this up. Group up quick. Okay, so I was having some interesting conversation about technology and the lack of access by some of our kids, and the lack of motivation perhaps some kids have it to come before school or after school. Like I said, there are definitely some problems that are going to be happening along the way. I put my glasses on. I see there's a question that came up. I want to ask Sherry how she determines a starting point for customized learning with a class of students based on pre-assessments, formative assessments, etc. Again, I think it's going to be a case of getting to know your students. You could decide what kind of things they can do, maybe check the technology that they have available. Anything that you can do to put them where they're in the driver's seat of their own learning is going to. If you can do flipped classroom, if you can do project-based learning, and especially if you do project-based learning that's interdisciplinary and gives them a couple of options of what they choose to do, I think those kind of things can get the kids involved. It's just going to depend on your group of students and what you have the ability to do. We have reached like the end of our time. Mitch, do put up my contact information, please. At any point, I know that, it never seems like an hour of these is long enough, but you can catch me on Facebook or Twitter or Pinterest, Google Plus, my email. It's almost Siri Crofut everywhere. I don't try to hide behind anything too cute except South Dakota Sherry on Twitter. But do connect with me, and I'd be glad to help you any way I can. Mitch, would you like to come up and say anything? Thank you guys for having me.
Okay, well, I wanted to thank everybody for coming also. I hope that you got a lot out of Sherry's session. And if I think we have 2 more sessions coming up in March, one with Tom Whitby and Steve Anderson, and one with Ginger Lumen, who's going to be talking about project-based learning. Steve and Tom are going to be talking about education worldwide and the influences it can have on the U.S. And we hope to see you at future broadcasts. And please stay in touch with Sherry and myself. And if there's anything we can do, we'd love to help you. And if you are interested in doing one of these sessions, if there's something that you're doing that you'd like to share with other educators, we'd love to have you up here also. So good night to everybody, or good evening if you're on the West Coast, at another event in March. Sherry, thank you very much.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.